weird guy in our neighborhood.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. You have chosen the SCS City Sports Podcast, your destination for local sports news, be it high school, be it professional, or whether you just want to listen to us ramble on about professional wrestling or old Seinfeld quotes or crazy movies that we all like. Welcome to the SCS City Sports Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance over at 2382 Battlefield Parkway. You can reach them at 706-866-8283. Also, the Chattanooga Flower Market, 8016 East Brainerd Road, 423-899-2440. Phil's Primetime Pizza down in beautiful Chickamauga, Georgia, 122 Gordon Street. That's 706-375-4448. Our good friend Greg Payne, host of Restricted to the Dugout with Greg Payne and the Payne Mortgage Team. You can reach them at 423-645-9404 for all of your mortgage needs. And finally, Choo Choo Barbecue, who make it possible for us to bring you the scoreboard on Friday nights. The Choo Choo Barbecue of Chickamauga scoreboard. You can reach them at 12960 U.S. Highway 27 at 706-375-7675. And as Ringo Robb likes to say, you don't know Q until you know Choo Choo. We also want to say a special thank you to Matthew Mays and the good friends and members of Jupiter Coyote, one of our favorite bands, and they provide the music for the show. Those guys have always been great to us, and we hope you guys will reach out and try to check out their music as well. So sit back and relax and hold on, and we'll see where we get to. And welcome everybody to this Wednesday afternoon edition of Scenic City Sports Podcast, brought to you by the fine folks at Gary Thacker Insurance and all of our all-star sponsors, Rusty, Scott, and Rob, joining you guys from Studio X on this beautiful summer-like day, 80-degree temperatures out there.
My car thermometer said 90.
Yeah, I was going to say it's been nice. Got out a little bit earlier and went and visited Rob's brother and picked up a couple things and just noticed how pretty it was when we got out there, and you know, even mowed the grass yesterday for the first time this year. So
Wife and I went out and walked over at Camp Jordan a couple miles today, and it was humid. We were sweating.
Yeah.
She's like, I can't believe I'm sweating. Well, it's humid. It's but yeah, hopefully it'll stick around for another couple of days. But we got some more rain coming in over the weekend, I think. So.
Well, and on as it would be, it's my pleasure of having to put a heating and air unit in on an 89-degree day.
Hey, at least you're putting it in on an 89-degree day and not a 99-degree day.
Or a 29-degree day.
Yeah. It never fails. You know, I've always said it.
You never don't know it works on a 72-degree day. You don't even know it's going down.
I've said it a million times. There's two immutable facts in the world. If something goes wrong with your heating and air unit, it's either the coldest day of the year or the hottest day of the year. Yep. That, and if something ever breaks on your car, it will be the day that you just put a full tank of gas in it.
Yep.
So, you know, you're
going to jinx me twice.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah, really. Sorry, Rob. But that never fails. Well, big...
the rest of your car parts are like, hey, he's getting changed.
You know, big sports week in the past here. We had WrestleMania over the weekend. We had the men's and women's national championship basketball games over the weekend. Major League Baseball is in... full swing at this point, but you know, obviously, for those of us like myself, are most excited about this is Masters Week, and Augusta National did not shy away from the controversy whatsoever. Tiger Woods is paired with DJ and with Phil Mickelson on the first 2 days, and Rory McIlroy is paired with Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka on the first 2 days. Yes.
That's not what I saw.
Well, it's either for practice rounds or something, but yes, it was. I saw that was what I saw.
That might have been a practice round because that's not what I saw earlier.
Nobody's going to have a knee shot from a pitching wedge, are they? Because they talk about Rory talks about them, and then he tries to bring Tiger into it.
I think
to defend it.
I will say that Rory made a statement the other day, something to the effects of that
Masters tournament. So.
He was talking about that, he wasn't, just because he had fundamental disagreements with these guys didn't mean he was going to be unfriendly to them, because he had scheduled a practice round with one of the two, with I think it was, who was he playing with? I think he was playing with Brooks Koepka.
Some
maybe
of these guys
they were playing a practice round. So yeah, I don't remember where I saw that the other day, Scott, but it did show that. That may not have been round one. That might have been or par 3, or it was something. But
and Tiger was put to the question. I saw this morning on ESPN. Is this the last time that they'll see him there? And he spoke of the possibilities that it might be. And I thought that was unique. And he said, Tiger said, he says, my game is better than it was this time last year. He says, my biggest challenge is walking this course.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing on a leg that's now one a little bit smaller than the other now. He almost lost it. Tiger is actually playing in Group 12 tomorrow with Victor Hovland and Xander Schauffele.
Okay, good. And that's that.
Now, here's a good group. With maybe a little controversy thrown in, 1042, JT, Justin Thomas, John Rahm, and Cameron Young.
You're thinking Cameron Smith.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, mullet boy.
Cameron Smith is actually playing the group after that.
Yeah, Cameron Smith, that's mullet boy.
And then, of course, I know, Rusty, looking forward to this one, Cameron Champ and Jose Maria Olazabal.
Yeah.
1106.
Yeah.
There was another...
Olazabal's won that, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
A couple times.
And I was going to say, and been in contention a number of times.
JT Poston, Francisco Molinari, and Bryson DeChambeau were in a group together. What was it? Koepka's playing with Gary Woodland and Danny Willett. Mickelson, Tom Hogue, and Siwoo Kim. But there was and I see Harris English is playing with Billy Horschel and Ryan Fox.
And here's our issue. We're aware of the guys
there was
in
another
the PGA that have been playing
here's
well.
Dustin Johnson, Corey Connors, and Justin Rhodes.
But we don't really know the live guys of who's been lighting it up on their side of it, because it's not being shown.
Well, they've only had...
Well, it's on the CW.
I was going to say, but they've only had one tournament so far.
One or two,
yeah. I was going to say. I mean, there's not...
One or two
yeah, I mean, we have one every week. I mean, I did see something. Greg Norman, I guess, was quoted saying that he had gotten an invitation to Augusta National, every year to play, being a past major winner, and this was the first year that he did not receive that invitation. He did receive an invitation to come
to the dinner,
but he did not receive. No, he's not a past champion, but he did not receive an invitation to play. And he was, kind of sour grapes about it and everything.
Would he have bothered to play?
Oh, I mean, how often you get a chance to play Augusta National? I guarantee you I'd be out there. But let me tell y'all something about...
I think it's petty, but...
Let me tell y'all something about the Masters that I did not know. And I guess... Go ahead,
run
Scott.
Down these final two pairings, because these are three good ones. Matthew Fitzpatrick, Colin Morikawa, and Will Zalatoris.
That's going to be a real good group.
And then... Well, Scheffler's playing with Max Homa, Sam Bennett, who's an amateur, ought to be pretty good.
Yep.
But the last group, Jordan Spieth, Tommy Fleetwood, Tony Finau.
Oh, that'd be a good group.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun group to watch.
And then, of course, those flip the next day.
Yeah.
So Tiger, I think, will actually play in one of the later groups.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
I saw something, was talking to someone not long ago, and I don't guess they do a good enough job on television of talking about this, and it might just be something that Augusta National doesn't want out there. But there are no golf carts whatsoever on that golf course at all, outside of the maintenance staff, and that's it. That's the only golf carts in that entire facility. Okay, so I was talking to somebody not long ago who's friends with a doctor, and the doctor volunteers his service one day for the Masters every year. So he volunteers one of the 4 days, and he gets to go and participate. The other 3 days, he gets to go and spectate. Well, anyways, they basically said that somebody had made the statement to him, well, boy, ain't that a sweet gig? I mean, how bad is it to go to Augusta National? And he said, no, you don't realize. He said, there will be people that will pass away during that Masters tournament. Yeah. And the guy said, what do you mean? And he said, television does not do that course justice as far as the hills and everything. And he said, there's also, when you go down there, there's a sign that says, if you venture off down in here, make sure that you can get yourself back out, because there is nothing coming in there to get you and take you out. And so there are literally people who will hike off in there to watch the Masters, and on their way out, hiking up those hills, have a heart attack and fall over right there at Augusta National.
I was there to practice round in, I think, 91-ish, somewhere in there, and it's one of the beautiful places I've ever seen. And I do remember the hills, but I don't remember it being that enormously challenging. But, of course, that was a long time ago. And again, when you watch some of the golfers that have to walk up some of those hills, that's what Tiger Woods is concerned with. That's why I think we all thought last year when they went to the British Open that might be great for him, because he wouldn't have to deal with those circumstances. But there's plenty of others over there. Yeah. That's interesting, Rusty. And because the place is, 89th Master, they probably have experienced cardiac arrest from some people. That
I'm sure it's happened, and I mean, and that's something that, and I'm not saying that they're actively trying to cover this up or anything of that sort, but I mean, that is something that, had someone not told me that, been
thinking about it.
And as many books as I've read about Augusta National over the years and stuff, and all the stories and things of that sort, that is not a thought that would ever have entered my mind, because I'm sure if a situation's bad enough, someone would be airlifted out of there or something to that effect. But I mean, the fact that there's not even no more golf carts on site than there actually is, I mean, that to me goes to show you the depths that they are willing to go to keep that place. Everybody's heard the legends of, out there icing down azalea beds to keep them from blooming too fast, and we're out there with hair dryers trying to get them to bloom and things of that sort. I mean, we've all heard all the legends and stuff, and I mean, until you've been there and walked those paths and seen how beautiful that place is, it doesn't do it justice.
Many years ago, this gentleman is deceased now, but he was a regional vice president with a large insurance company. But one of his vacations was every year to be a marshal at the Masters. So he did that many years, and I'm sure most of those people do have longevity in those in those things.
We've been trying to get badges through the lottery for well over 20 years now. Haven't done it yet. We got badges for the Final Four, men's Final Four, first try we ever did when it was Atlanta about 21 years ago. Haven't succeeded in getting the Masters one yet.
Oh, I've been in the lottery. I've been in the lottery every year for the last 15 years. I think
we've all been some places and seen some pretty courses. I've seen Pebble Beach twice. Again, I've seen Augusta once, and you take the water out of Pebble Beach, and you kind of say, I've seen that course maybe somewhere else. I've never been anywhere that I've seen Augusta. Yeah. that and they talk about that when even the golfers get there, they realize how special and different this place is from all the other places they go.
Yeah. I've seen the sign that says Washington Avenue, and I saw the Krispy Kreme and the Kroger where Craig Stadler used to to frequent. But that's as close as I've ever got to it. So.
Well, the thing about Augusta National is not that, and it's not even the top-rated golf course in the United States. I mean, it usually ranks. In the U.S., it usually ranks somewhere around 3 or 4, I think, and I think worldwide it ranges somewhere like 7 or 8 in the list.
Why is that?
Pine Valley is number 1 year after year after year, and has been for something like 30-something, 40-something years at this point.
And Rusty, what do they base that on? Because there's no way it's more immaculate.
No, well, it's a whole lot of factors. There's playability. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. But I think with Augusta, I think it's just it's the whole, it's the legend of it. You know, it's like the honors here in Chattanooga. You know, I mean, everybody in Chattanooga knows what the honors is, but the number of people in Chattanooga that played the honors are few and far in between. I'm lucky enough that I've played it twice, and it's a beautiful golf course, and it will absolutely pack your lunch. I've played the Farm as well, and another very beautiful track in both of those places. If you don't know where they are, you won't find them, especially the honors. And the honors is, you know, you go up there to where it is, and unless you know where you're going, you'll drive around forever and not realize it's even there. Luckily, in the last few years, or maybe conversely for them, but, you know, Google Maps in the last few years has made it possible for people to be able to look at it from overhead. But, you know, if you didn't know where that place was, you wouldn't find it.
That's why I put a bunch of pictures on my Facebook page the other day, because I covered a tournament at Macron. And, you know, if you're just driving by, you can see like one hole right there on the edge.
The one that sits on the street.
Yeah, that little par 4, it's just straight. But nobody gets to see hardly, you know, what's inside unless you go up there for dinner or something like that. But, I mean, that place is just absolutely...
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous, but you talk about something you do not want to walk.
No.
Absolutely do not want to walk, because some of those holes are like a quarter mile or more to get from one green to the next tee, and it's all uphill. It's brutal.
We could bring my son on here in a minute ago who played a match there last year and ask him how much fun it was to walk Macklemore, and I promise you he'd have some choice words for that golf course, because it's...
Well, I know, I had a cart, and I was taking pictures, and I was helping get kids up from like one hole to the next.
Yeah.
There was no way.
Well, and I don't know how many golfers know this, because they do it, but the physicality of walking a course like y'all are describing and playing well at the same time, and one that's just easily laid out like a coastal. That's not night and day.
Well, you just take here in the area, for people out there listening that are from this area, they'll understand this analogy. Take Brainerd Golf Course.
Okay.
Not a whole lot of elevation change, pretty flat. Most everything is nice and compact. But Brainerd, if you play Brainerd from the tips, it plays at like 7,100 and something yards, 6,800, somewhere in that range. At that point, you're still basically walking. If you went straight down every fairway from tee to green, even with the extra areas in between, and you walked for 18 holes, you're walking somewhere in the neighborhood 3.5, 4 miles by the time the day's over with, because it's 1,800 yards
you
for.
Figure if it's 7,000, it was a 7,000 yard course. That's 21,000 feet, and there's 5,280 feet in a mile.
Yeah, so it's 4.5.
It's about 4.5 miles.
4.5 miles.
I walked the entire cart path at Lafayette once. Well, not playing, just to be walking, and it was a little over 5 miles.
And that's if you just go straight and back. That's not counting.
So that's not what you're trying to make is the elevational changes of walking.
Yes,
if you can't walk 4 or 5 miles on a flat surface, you know, then you throw carrying clubs on there.
Yes,
then you throw actually physical golf,
and you throw the stress and the heat and you know everything that goes along with it. You understand what. Anybody out there that says a golfer's not a athlete, you know, I show them, you know, look at guys like, take a guy like David Duval years ago. David Duval was a short little pudgy fellow when he first got on the PGA Tour, and a few years later looked like a bodybuilder because the grind that golf at that level takes out of you. Look at Tiger Woods. If you took Tiger Woods away, you know, if you changed his facial features and you looked at him as just some regular guy, you would swear he was a linebacker for a football team or a baseball player, the way his shoulders are built. I mean, now, not necessarily in the last couple of years after all his injuries and stuff like that, but you take, 2004 Tiger, and he looks like he could have suited up for the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow.
All those guys strength train now. Every single one of them, because they have to, because it's not just the staying in shape, to walk the course and stuff like that. Look at Bryson DeChambeau, what he's doing. Now he's hitting it further than anybody, and now they're going to change the golf balls because people are hitting it so far. But they have to do that to stay ahead of stay ahead of the pack because everybody else is working out too, and they're gaining strength and endurance and stuff like that. So yeah, you've got to be the days of going out there of Craig Stadler, for lack of a better term. I mean, he played great, but could he hang with people out there today?
I mean, Craig Stadler, Billy Casper. I mean, we can think of a whole bunch of big guys that went out there.
And we've talked about this before from different eras. We talked about how Palmer, yes, there was some good golfers around him, but he was the guy. Then Jack came along, and yes, there was a handful of good golfers, but Jack rose to the top. Tiger came along. Nowadays, guys, it's really hard to maintain the best in the world for a long period of time because there's several of them like you.
I mean,
you get on a little run, and that's good, but can you keep it up?
I just ran down a list of pairings. 20 years ago, we'd say, okay, Tiger's the favorite. Who's next? There wouldn't have been a question. Now, I mean, I just saw about 20 names on that list.
And a bunch of folks very capable.
Every one of them
very capable.
can do it.
Well, you can throw a blanket over 10 of them right now that could very easily. I mean, even some of the live guys coming back on. Dustin Johnson always plays the Masters well. He's won it before. Phil Mickelson always gets up for that golf course. Tiger Woods could put it together for 4 days because he knows that golf course like the back of his hand. There are. Augusta National is one of those golf courses. I always think back to. I'm trying to remember how many years ago this was now. Maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and we go to the last day of the Masters, and Jack Nicklaus, I think at the time he was 63 or 64, and he spent the entire Sunday on the first page of the leaderboard. At one time, he was even tied for the lead or no worse than second at one point in the day, because that's a golf course that rewards experience.
You guys want to play a little game real quick?
Always.
2023 Masters odds. This is from VegasInsider.com. Who, if you want to guess, maybe the top 5, top 10?
Scheffler.
Scheffler's number 1. Yeah. He's tied for 1.
Yeah.
At plus 700.
Okay, so I would say Scheffler. I would say Colin Morikawa.
Colin Morikawa. He's 10th.
10th? Wow.
Tied for 10th on the list.
How about Jordan Spieth?
Jordan Spieth is 4th on the list.
Justin Thomas.
Justin Thomas is 6th on the list.
What's the little English guy? The little short one.
Matt Fitzpatrick.
We've seen, you say experience, but
he's down on the list. He's not the top 20.
We keep seeing new people win that thing too, Rusty.
Mm-hmm. Dustin
but that
Johnson.
don't mean they hadn't played it a few times.
Dustin Johnson is tied for 10th.
Wow.
I think they're being a little biased because we ain't seen those guys.
Yeah. Cam Smith.
Cam Smith is 7th.
Rory
is tied for 1st.
Yeah. They ain't got Tiger up towards the top, do they?
No.
Okay, I was going to say.
Scheffler and McIlroy at plus 700.
Yeah.
And somebody at 900.
I'm thinking.
The name we mentioned earlier.
Anybody on that Lakeview High School squad?
Yeah, no. No, ain't no danger there.
Let's say he's from Spain.
Justin Rose?
No.
Spain.
Oh, no, he's from Scotland, my bad.
All up top.
Jon Rahm.
Jon Rahm.
Well, yeah, I mean, he plays pretty solid.
Spieth at 1,600.
Yeah.
Patrick Cantlay at 1,800. Justin Thomas, Cam Smith, Xander Schauffele, Tony Finau, Morikawa, Jason Day, and Dustin Johnson's your top 10.
I can tell you this much. After watching PGA Tour Full Swing, Tony Finau is he's my sentimental favorite.
Take somebody that's...
Where do you think the odds of Tiger is?
Take somebody in not top 10 and pick that person to win it, because we've seen this before. They've played the course some. They understand it, like Rusty talks about. They ain't ever put four
rounds
together. If the weather holds, somebody like that's capable of doing that. Jordan Spieth is a tremendous ball striker. at all times. Sometimes he loses his game where he's not who he once was, but he can put those 4 rounds together.
Augusta National's always one of those golf courses that rewards experience. Okay.
Right.
I would bet.
Right.
Love you,
Bye.
Goodbye.
Always nice to have fans.
I would think. I'll tell you somebody.
Bouncer at the door is.
I'll tell you somebody who would not surprise me to go in there and play well is somebody like Zach Johnson, former Masters champion, always plays well there.
Some good odds.
Does he? What's he at?
Plus 50,000.
Yeah, but I mean, but you're not anybody that's a former Masters champion. You're never out of the realm of possibility for those guys to walk in there and play well.
Got a pair of Baylor guys on the list.
Harris English and Luke List both.
I didn't see. I don't think Luke's in.
So you don't like the idea, Rusty, of somebody winning this that hasn't played this course?
I think occasionally you're gonna.
Who was the last one? Was it Fuzzy? Was the last one?
Yeah, I mean, every now and then you get a guy that walks in there on day one, having never seen the golf course before, and goes out there and shoots a big number because the pressure of being at Augusta National has not hit that person yet. And then they go to bed on night one with the Masters lead, and they wake up the next day and they play in one of the later pairings, and they have television coverage around them all day long, and their gallery's 3 times the size that it was the day before, and they wither in the pressure because. And I always, I call the golf. I've always called Augusta National the old girl, and I say it this way: the old girl don't always show herself on Thursday and Friday. But by God, on Saturday and Sunday, you better be ready because that's when she shows her teeth, especially on Sunday. When they put those Sunday pin placements that they always do, that's what separates the men from the boys. And somebody that's played there before understands where those pin placements are.
And let's take a set of holes that kind of make or break you in that
Amen corner.
Yes, yeah. There's 3 holes there.
11, 12, and 13.
That kind of determine whether a person's going
2 par 4s and a par 3.
Pull away or fall behind.
Yep.
And a lot of it's just decision making.
Well, that and the fact that Rays Creek runs through all 3 holes.
But it's decision making.
Yeah.
Do I play smart or do I play risky?
Well, then you get right off those 3 holes. You got a par 5 that you have to decide: are you going to go for it, or are you going to try to lay up? Behind,
and then 2 holes later, you have to stand on the tee box at 16 and look. And
that starts to stretch your fate in this tournament.
Yes,
and you're right. Amen corner makes things be
a
spot or a bad spot.
I won't necessarily say that you are going to win the golf tournament in Amen corner,
but you can lose.
But you can sure as hell lose it.
Yeah,
and you can lose it fast.
And you see that what they call that out of bounds chalk there, and if it rolls back in that water.
Well, that par 5 that Scott's talking about. If you decide you're going for it. I mean, you got a landing.
And everybody there can reach it.
They can reach it, no problem.
Yeah, but
can you stop it?
Yes.
Can you stop it? When you put it on that green, can you stop it?
You can stop it on Saturday, but can you stop it on Sunday?
Yeah, on Sunday when they've tucked it back in the corner and they've rolled that green an extra 3 times that day. And
where's it go if it don't stop?
Right there in Rags Creek. Comes right. I mean, it's
okay.
And that.
All right, so you're risk and reward.
Yeah.
Do I try to fly one to the pin and it won't stick and it's in the green?
And that's where the strength comes into play, because if you can drive it down there and you can go in there with an 8 iron, 9 iron, or a wedge instead of a 4 or 5 or a 6,
something hot,
because you got to stop it. Basically, stop it in a bathtub.
But a scarier aspect of that is if you fly it past the green and you wind up back there in that pine straw behind it, and then you've got to try and come back onto that green. That's as touchy of a pitch shot as you're ever going to have, because if you give it one little extra oomph, it's in Rays Creek. And then you're basically going back and forth across that green, and you walk out of there with an 8 or a 10.
They call that creek.
It's so bad.
Well, Rusty's got a good train of thought over there.
Yeah,
I hope it don't go back
no.
into that.
And I don't think you're done
because
with
Triple H is better at it.
No, and I don't think you're done with the bloodline story. You know, him sending the Usos off the other day. I think that may be the next feud. They could set that up. Roman and Solo Sikoa against the Usos, even though they are,
but you look at the stories that could be within that.
Oh, I know.
You could bring Rikishi back with his sons as the tribal elder. You know, you could invoke, you could bring The Rock out in that. Eventually, you could bring in. I mean, if you wanted to, and you could sign them for a extended period, bring in Gorillas of Destiny and Haku. I mean, there's so many ways that you could take that if you did it the right way.
But Rusty, when I started seeing that 1,000, and he's 947, I think, and counting 1,000, then I saw 1,500. I said, there's what they want to do. And you know what? We talked about Roman Reigns in his beginning, Scott, and you talked about how they were trying to put him over as a good guy, and nobody liked him from that standpoint. He's played this role extremely well.
This is the role he's needed to play for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, they kicked the can for a long time with that.
And you never know. I mean, wrestling fans are fickle, and they'll change at the drop of a hat. I mean, he could be one of the hated most guys, right now, and a few years later, he could. I mean, just like The Rock did. Everybody hated The Rock because they were forcing him down everybody's throat, and he was so good at that character that people started to respect it. People started cheering for him. He became a babyface. I could see the same thing happening to Roman down the road, but for now, this is the perfect character for him. I hope it continues. It's kind of drugged me back into WWE a little bit because I had not watched hardly any of it. And then more and more I started hearing about the Bloodline story and started reading.
They've done some good stuff with
There's
that.
A great article on ESPN.com right now, interview with the Usos and Roman and Rikishi and all of them talking about the whole bloodline story and the bloodline itself, the actual bloodline, and how everybody's intertwined and how it all.
Did you see their little skit on the Goodfellas?
I haven't seen it. But I've heard
well,
about
you
it.
should see it because they played it well. Roman did an outstanding job with
That's what everybody says,
and they really did a good job with that. And that takes us back a little bit when there was a lot of creativity in WWE at one time, and I'm like both of you. They got away from that, and they got really flat and
one of the most creative people that ever was in that place is a friend of mine that lives here in Chattanooga. That and that's David Sahadi was behind a ton of all that stuff, and you can see when he stopped being behind a lot of that stuff as well over the years. It's no different than the Vince Russo years versus the non-Vince Russo years, things of that sort. All that stuff in wrestling is so cyclical, but the problem is the one thing that's remained constant in WWE is Vince McMahon, and Vince McMahon is a lot like Jerry Jones with the Dallas Cowboys. He's well past his age of being able to look at talent and think this person is for sure, that person is not, because they've let some seriously good talent walk over the years, and then those superstars went on to New Japan, or they went on to the NWA, or they went on to any of the other promotions, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, any of the ones out there, and turned themselves into something.
3 to 4 years ago, when the other side was losing talent to them. It was a lot of things that McMahon was fumbling around with.
Well, I would argue,
and I think Triple H has done a real good job of getting back and being in charge of why this group's running off all the time.
And I hope he stays in charge. I mean, Vince, hey, all credit due to him. He took a company and turned it around and sold it for $9.2 billion. But it's time for him to step aside. Even with the new ownership, it's time for him to let Triple H run it, because we've seen what's happened the last few months with him running it. The shows have gotten better. There's been more interest in it. and I don't want to see it.
I'm like you.
I
don't want to see him stand on his desk and say,
Well,
I'm the boss and take it back over.
And here's the question, too. I mean, who is the last legitimate, homegrown WWE superstar that you can think of that is not a second or third generation to a current star? Because that immediately takes out Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes. Who's the last person?
Undertaker's the first one that comes to mind.
That's what I'm thinking. Because
but he got his start elsewhere too. I mean,
he got his start.
WCW and everywhere else.
Seth Rollins, Ring of Honor. Kevin Owens, Ring of Honor.
Even Shawn Michaels,
Sami Zayn, Ring of Honor. The last time Vince found somebody, that diamond in the rough.
Well, you talking about men's or women's division?
Well, I mean,
I'd say Charlotte.
The women's division, that's a different ball game altogether, because they basically took when Triple H took over NXT. He built what is the current women's division in NXT with Paige and with Sasha Banks and with Bayley and all. But then at the same time, there's so many good wrestlers that they bring up to the main roster and they book them terribly and they run them off. I mean, right now, Sasha Banks is in New Japan as Mercedes Varnado, her real name, and she is thriving over there.
Watched her in the Mandalorian episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's
back.
You can't sit back and say, as I've heard it said before, the worst words that you can ever say in any situation is, "This is the way we've always done it." Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to work. Eventually, everything else is catching up. And AEW right now does a really good job of their booking, and with Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor and using those as two separate promotions that kind of intertwine with each other, and now this working relationship they have with Impact and with New Japan and all these people, just all of a sudden one night you look out and here comes Juice Robinson in for a single night.
Where did Yusuf, which was his WWE name,
Miro,
where has he disappeared?
Apparently, they've been trying to present a story to him that he's willing to come back to TV for months, and he hasn't been able to do it. And of course, now the rumor being that Tony Khan supposedly has a big announcement coming up, and of course I've heard 5 different different rumors on it, but the leading one is Jay White. But we'll see who that is. But
sounds like they might be losing FTR.
I think that's a definite.
That's a rumor.
I think WWE realizes how stupid they were to let them go to start with.
They're not going to change that name. I wonder if they'll let them keep the name.
I think they'll come. I think if they come back, they'll come back as the Revival. Well, you just
based on what they've been calling themselves, it's kind of hard to fathom that.
It ain't Fear the Revolution.
Nope.
But yeah, I just. Wrestling's fun to watch again, and has been now for the last year or so, really 2 years with AEW. But I fear, like watching, because apparently the whole Brock Lesnar thing the other night was not supposed to happen. That was all rewritten, like literally mid-show. That was decided.
But when he if Kim was sitting here, she could echo this. When they were trying to say who's going to be his partner, I thought to myself, who would be his partner? And I thought of Lesnar, and I said Lesnar, and then no sudden did the music hit. But that really is so far from who he's been.
Yep.
To come out and help somebody. That's never been what he is.
Said
what he did was who he did.
It was his first. It had been his first tag team match since 2004.
Is that right?
Yeah, they announced that on the show, because I was even thinking, I was like, something
quirky about it.
But
weird. Him just coming out and playing that role, it's just never nothing he's been.
Well, they did say that it was a big thing, that it was a plus for Cody, though, because apparently he's very selective as to who he chooses to work programs with. Mm-hmm. And he has right of first refusal on any situation that he's put in, Brock Lesnar does. So for him to elect to go that route, that could be that could be
Well, he likes to beat up
showing.
people, so it's just another person to throw around the ring.
Exactly, but that could also be WWE showing you, if you'll just be patient.
Yeah.
We're going to make him go through the trials of Hercules, but we're gonna put the belt on him.
A bunch of fans were real upset about it, but I was thinking, but you can't. I mean, if he had won the championship,
it was too
Where
much
does he
of
go?
it was too much of a gift, Scott.
Where does he go after
It
that?
was too anticlimactic to give
there's
him that.
nothing else for him to do. He came in, he got into WrestleMania, he won the championship.
Yeah, what else is there? Now we're
That's
gonna try to crown him from that point
I was
on.
going to say you're going to give him a 3-month reign,
You
and
got to give a babyface a decent chase to get the title.
I look for. I think he'll win the title at WrestleMania 40.
Possibly.
I think they'll make him.
Just seems
I think
so,
they'll make him chase it
so
all year.
unwarranted to have handed it to him the other night just because he said, this is his destiny. The only thing I thought to myself, because I'd read
so many
something.
other wrestlers have said that in
Well,
promos.
true, but what I was reading some, and it might have been bad publicity, but that Roman was ready to take a hiatus. And I thought, well, if he's ready to do that, and he has been doing this a while now, I can see him giving it up for 6 months and getting it back, of course.
Yeah.
But obviously he's not willing to do that. And I'm going to tell you something. As hot as the bloodline is, and I still think that the
You can't mess with
that up
you
right
can't
now.
mess with that right now.
Don't give up on that.
You
That's the
can't
best
mess with that
storyline
right
they've
now.
Had in years.
Yeah, don't give up on that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not even comparable. I mean, because think about it.
Without Lesnar being a part of it there for a little bit.
So many times over the last few years, they had something that worked and then just completely botched it
And you're
in
right,
no
Scott.
time flat.
That has carried on even with Lesnar hopping out of the situation. Even if you thought, well, Lesnar's what's fueling this. Well, he's been out of it, and it's gotten stronger.
Yeah.
I'll tell
The
you,
whole thing with Sami Zayn, I mean, that was so well done.
It
how
was
they
done well.
Eased it in there.
and I don't think that's over with yet.
No.
I don't think that whole thing's over yet.
No. Usos and Zayn and Owens should.
Well, I don't
mean-
think Zayn and Owens carry that belt that long.
No.
And
And,
probably
and
by SummerSlam, it's gone.
there's just the amount of directions that you can now take that whole story in is limitless. And the last, you look back over the last few years, how many botched potential factions and stuff that they could have. I always thought, and you'll laugh when I say this, but I really always thought that the League of Nations could have been a really cool faction.
They could have.
They could have done so much with that.
There was tons of talent.
There was, but they got bored with it quick. I also think that they pissed away the opportunity to have the 4 horsewomen of wrestling versus the 4 horsewomen of MMA when you still had Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler and Mercedes Martinez and who was the fourth one? You had all 4 of them under contract.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been so many. And they just it's like they just want they're so concentrated on the ratings for that one night. They give you pay-per-view matches and then they expect you to pay for a pay-per-view that's the exact same match you've seen 5 times in the last 6 or 8 weeks. And there's nothing fun about that. I mean, that's the one thing about AEW. I mean, you don't ever see MJF wrestle. And then all of a sudden you see him at a pay-per-view and he reminds you why he's so damn good as he is. He's the perfect heel champ, and that's what they're doing with Roman now, which is phenomenal.
I mean, Flair didn't wrestle every week.
Nope.
Flair
When's the
was
last
a
time
special-
Roman wrestled on TV?
God.
Well, I think in the beginning
while.
Flair wrestled a lot, but
Well, he did, but you didn't need him there every single week because they had good enough stories, that they could, they could be without the champ for a night. But when Flair showed up, or when Jim Crockett announced, "Hey, Ric Flair, the NWA champion, will be here tonight," then it was much watched TV. But he didn't have to be there and wrestle every night. Once a month,
Most WCW Saturday night shows you ever saw Ric Flair, he came out, cut a promo, and that was it. You might have had a little vignette where they went out and beat the hell out of Dusty Rhodes in the parking lot, tied him.
His arm.
Yeah, broke his arm with a piece of PVC pipe or something. I mean, you might have got that, but you didn't get a lot of You didn't get Flair wrestling. Once in a blue moon, about once a month, you would get that Flair main event with him. And, I remember one time it was Ricky Morton, and one time it was Road Warrior Hawk, and it was,
But credit where credit's due. Dusty was one of the riders.
Oh, Dusty knew what he was doing.
And was good at that.
Yeah.
Even if he was going to be the whipping post that for a while or the champ. But
Dusty could have put that belt on himself 1,000,000 times over, and he understood what sold.
Yeah.
I mean, plain and simple. I think Dusty Rhodes may be the last of the unselfish wrestling bookers that was still an active talent and still in the process of it.
Well,
that was more about the whole show as opposed to what can I get myself.
Yeah, that would be a fair statement.
I did want to bring this up because you just reminded me of it. We lost a pretty good performer, Hall of Famer.
I
Robert
saw
Miller,
that.
better known as Bushwhacker Butch, passed away at the age of 80.
Wow.
I think 79, 80.
And we didn't say this, but and I think I'm correct in what I said. Did Arn Anderson lose his son? I read that a while back, and Arn and his son, neither one had been appearing, and I read where
Something
Arn's,
happened to Brock. I don't know.
Read that I'm gonna say 6-7 weeks ago.
Talking about the Bushwhackers, it's kind of funny.
It could have been. Bad wording out there. I don't know. But
a whole generation remember the Bushwhackers as like the comedy act that they were in the WWE, but most people forget that they were pretty rough heels at one time.
Arn Anderson's older son passes away.
Oh.
Arn and Brock Anderson pay tribute. Arn Anderson's son, Martin Lundy.
Okay.
Older son, Barrett Lundy, passed away at the age of 37. That was about a month ago.
So he wasn't wrestling.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I thought I saw that.
Yeah, that's from a website called WrestlingHeadlines.com. But they said Anderson to his podcast Twitter account today to announce the passing. So, yeah, I did not know that.
All right, wrapping things up, the changes in baseball, Scott. I don't think that you're a huge fan of it because
Not the biggest fan, no.
Because I think you're more of a traditionalist than I am too, to a
Me
certain
too.
extent. But they said there'd be some growing pains, but they still think that the fact that it's speeding the game up, and there's been some ejections, and there's been some mad hurt feelings, and Machado got thrown out the other day for something he's not used to being thrown out of a ball game for. But there seems to be some liking, if you believe what the press is saying, in the changes. Just things we got to get used to.
Look, I mean, it may be people like the change that don't care that much about baseball or just casual fans. And all I see on social media is, well, we don't need 30 minutes of these guys adjusting their batting gloves, adjusting their cup, and tapping their helmet, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you don't understand the nuances of what's going on. I said, it's not just what you see is the guy fixing his batting gloves and digging it. I said, they're making slight adjustments. The pitcher's playing head games with the batter. The batter's playing head games with the pitcher. They're changing up signals. They're repositioning defenses. All this minor stuff is going on underneath the surface that most people don't know about. It's a chess match.
Let me tell you the one, and I saw it happen the other night with the Braves.
It doesn't need to be rushed.
If you throw over twice with a base runner there, not only can you not step off the rubber, you can't throw over there. So you basically give the base up.
Yes.
I mean, you basically go back to recreational baseball. You give the base up.
And now the bases are bigger. So are we going to put an asterisk beside all these stolen base numbers because you don't have to run as far, or you don't get held on as much?
I never heard this. I never heard the reasoning behind that. Is it safety?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. They're talking about we're trying to speed up the game. Well,
are we playing with safety bases at first base like in Little League?
Well, I don't know what the reason. I never heard the reason behind the bases having to be bigger.
I never understood that either. I guess they figure it's just easier to see. Maybe it's for safety. Two people's foot can fit on one of these bigger bases,
and that's bigger. That's a bigger issue at first base than
easily.
Anywhere.
I don't know.
But I never heard him say. So, but I just guessed at it. Thought that was the reason, maybe.
And I've had people tell me, well, back in the 70s and 80s, they routinely played 2-hour and 30-minute games. We're just trying to get back to that. Okay, here's how you get back to that. Have starting pitchers that can go more than 7 innings. Actually, have starting pitchers that can go more than 5 innings, because that's a rarity these days. Sure. Back in the 70s and 80s, you had a starter. He went 8 innings. And then they brought in a closer to pitch the 9th. That's the reason why.
And if that starter was good enough to go the 9th, he went out there.
The Sandy, I can't pronounce his last name, the kid from Miami, just threw a game yesterday, and the game took 1 hour and 57 minutes. But he threw like a 1-hitter, 2-hitter. Alacanada or something like that.
I think he's their age.
Yeah, he is, absolutely. But if you have a good pitcher, yes, the game will be shorter. But it's when you're replacing and you're sending out, 4 different pitchers, and
and all the changing.
It's all the changes and stuff like that. But that's part of baseball.
I found something on Facebook, and I won't use the comical, harsh language that Tommy Lasorda used as he walked out to the mound to take the ball away from the pitcher who was griping about him being taken out.
Yeah.
And Tommy's constant barrage of, I'm the manager, blank, 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 blank. I'm making the decision, blank, blank.
Yeah, shut your...
And it went on in the dugout, and he just kept saying, like, whether it's right or wrong, I'm making it.
Yeah.
Blank, blank, blank.
Yeah.
He said, I wouldn't be out here if there wasn't 4 hits and 4 runs on the board. Give me the damn ball.
Give me the ball.
Everybody talks, it's a faster game. It doesn't mean it's a better game, okay? And I'm sorry, yes, I'm a traditionalist, I'm a purist. I enjoy a ball game that's going to take about 3 hours. Now, should it take 4 hours, 4.5? If the action's great, I'm fine with it. All those World Baseball Classic games were great, and they didn't have all these new rules that we had to change around. And I brought this up. And, I'm not the biggest Braves fan, but I do go to Braves games because I like watching some of the other
Super
teams.
Stadium.
If you're trying to make a Braves game for a 7:15, 7:30 first pitch, and maybe we can't leave up here until 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Then you hit rush hour traffic in Marietta, which starts around 11. Then you have to find a place to park if you don't already have a parking spot lined up. And then you have to wait to get your ticket scanned to get in the gate. And then maybe you want to pick up some food because you didn't have time to eat dinner on the way.
Because you were in a hurry to get down there.
I've got an answer for you, Scott. You don't go at 5.
And guess what happens?
You leave earlier.
Yeah, but if the people that you're going with can't leave until 5, which has happened before.
So you're going to get there by the 4th inning.
Exactly.
You're going to see the 4th.
Exactly.
You'll see the starter doesn't be out.
And then some people are like, we need to leave early and get the traffic out of here. Well, I've already spent $300 on tickets and gas and everything else, and I'm going to get to see 4 innings, or I'm only going to see 2 innings, if even from there at the start.
You better start liking the fireworks show more than you do.
But all I can tell you is welcome to the TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat world, because if it ain't immediate instant gratification, these folks in this generation ain't about it, and that's what's behind a whole lot of this.
Yes, we have failed as an older generation. We have failed the kids because we're not teaching them how to appreciate the finer points and nuances of the game. As some of us like, well, these kids, have a better chance to watch all these games when they take 2 hours.
Won't you write an article?
Oh, I've got an article.
I was going to say, I know he's got one.
I've got a way to get a ball game down to 13 minutes.
Well, guys, you hear it here. We can sit here and gripe about the nuances of baseball for days and days and days and days and days. But appreciate you stepping in with us this afternoon, and we'll be back next week, probably at our regular time, probably Sunday evening. So we'll catch you guys on the flip side.